Hey, kids. Welcome back to the first 2026 episode of the CFL Outsiders. I remain, as always, your 100% impartial, completely unbiased, celebrating the new year host, old man, shouting at clouds. Joining me as usual is MJ.
Hey, everyone. Happy New Year. Are we still allowed to say that?
I think so. All of January's within the gray zone. And GT.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to 2026 and another extravaganza, shall we say. I think it's going to be a long one tonight, but whatever. We'll do our best.
I see you've got a swanky new Calgary swag on there, GT.
Yeah, let me tilt this a bit. Oh, look at this. This is nice. It even has, for MJ especially, you'll like this one, it even has the hand warmer pocket.
Yes, very important.
You were asking about that earlier last year, so I thought I would show that off. So if everybody hasn't seen this already, and some people have, I saw this via a post on Blue Sky where someone had posted this deal, and so I immediately jumped on it and got my son to order me this. Costco has got these wonderful licensed sweatshirts with hoods, nice hoods, the whole deal, nice ties, very good quality, branded beautifully in multiple colors, multiple logos from each team, $20 on sale.
Wow.
$20 each. That's delivered to your house from Costco.
Free shipping.
Free shipping.
Free shipping.
Costco.ca. You cannot get them in store. You can only get them online. So if you have a Costco card, just go online. They are terrific. They're a really great deal. And I'm looking forward to wearing this a bunch and when it's warm enough. Buy one size larger. I will tell you that. Buy one size larger because then you can fit a t-shirt comfortably underneath of it.
They are also in the store, but you have to be like they have Blue Jay ones and they have CFL ones, but it's a little hit or miss. But they are online.
I've not seen them in the store, in any of the stores I've been in recently, which is 3. So I've not seen them looking for milk of all things. But nonetheless, I haven't seen them in store, but they are online. Unfortunately, online, apparently you cannot get Riders or Bombers because they're sold out online. And certain sizes of different teams are sold out as well. You know, you may get lucky and it's well worth checking out. They're $20. Best deal, $20.
I was going to go to Costco this weekend anyway, so I'll check and see if ours has any, although I won't hold out a lot of hope for rider stuff. All righty. So we got some stuff to talk about here. We've had the report cards out. The league meetings are going on. There's been a lot of signings, re-signings, releases, all that stuff. So we thought, what the heck? We're a couple of weeks into January. Let's bring everybody up to date. But before we get into any of that, I wanted to ask you guys one question. Just we're looking at a brand new year. So a new CFL season, everything's new. Here's a question for you. What's one thing you would love to see happen in the CFL this year that absolutely will not happen? And my one caveat is you can't say they changed the rules back because we all want that. Anybody got any thoughts for me? I have 2, so you guys go first, and if you use one of mine, I've got a backup.
Okay, I have one because we all love chaos. So, and there's no better league for chaos than this league. So mine is what I would love to see happen at the end of the season. Every team is 9-9 with exactly the same home and away records and points for and against. And then let them figure out who's going to play who in the playoffs.
Because there's no ties anymore.
No more ties. Exactly. Yeah. So it is exactly every team ends up with exactly the same points. And get home and home, and it breaks down. And how far do they have to go, and how do they figure it out? I would love to see that.
That would be peak CFL.
My serious one, I had a cheeky one and a serious one. My serious one was along the very same lines that I hope every team is on par. My cheeky one is that I hope Rod Smith retires.
Yeah, I can see that.
With the end of a contract coming up for the television guys, I think it might be one more year before they're done, and then they may all be retiring.
Or along the same lines, maybe next year we'll see some games on CBC.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that in the league meetings because they're not real news on that, but at least a comment. Mine, I was kind of like you, MJ. I had a serious one, and then in case one of you guys used it, I had a backup one that absolutely would never happen. So my first one was I wanted to see Curtis Rourke and Taylor Elsgrisma both sign with the CFL teams this year and watch the three young Canadians, Nathan out in BC and them in Saskatchewan and Winnipeg, battle it out for the season. That would be something. But I'm not holding my breath. We may get Elsgrisma up next year. I don't think we'll see Curtis Rourke yet. And of course, my semi-cheeky one just goes down to my background, and that was to see the MOP for the year awarded to an O-lineman.
Love it.
They deserve it. They play good, too.
Yeah.
Okay, so that went over like a lead balloon. Let's maybe get into what we were really going to talk about.
To quote Keith Moon, yes, go ahead.
The CFL's PA published their report cards where their players all basically vote on how good the team treats them, the facilities, the nutrition, how the team treats the players, how the coaches are, the business people, all of that. And so those have come out, and both of you have more knowledge on it than I do. The only thing that I know about it for sure is that apparently the number of respondents was down a little bit last year. They averaged 55 a team last year, and this year it was 42. So slightly down. But from there, I thought most of the teams did okay. Who wants to give us the rundown off the top?
Well, I thought it was interesting. I'm going to let MJ get into the numbers because she's apparently got all that in one place versus mine all over the place. But mine is, I just thought my impression was they were better this year. Teams showed improvement. Teams seem to have listened in some regards. And in some regards they haven't. And there was a few surprises. I thought the ownership in Montreal and BC both got really low marks, which both very much surprised me. But I thought some other teams showed improvement. And I think it's a great exercise. I really do. I think the players, I wish that the PA would make it mandatory, to be honest. I just wish it wasn't voluntary. I wish it was mandatory so that all players had to do it. Because I think it's like anything else. If it becomes a dwindling number of players, then it becomes less relevant and teams don't pay as much attention to it. And I think it's important, the players get their say and it can impact, a lot of different aspects of the game. So I'm pretty cool with it, with the whole idea.
I think maybe there's this is like anyone who has surveys, HR surveys at work and is anonymous, really anonymous.
Right.
So there might be some hesitation there. I don't know. We can just go team by team because I just have a little note about, I have a note about their grade, what their grade was last year, and then a couple things that kind of stood out for me. So, like, speaking of Amar Doman, we can start with the BC Lions. They went from a C- last year to a C this year. And the two things that stood out for me, because everyone touts how great this organization is, they got an F in diet and nutrition. They got the lowest grade of anyone for anything. That was very surprising, considering how much we ragged on the Stampeders last year. And then they got a D+ for treatment of families. And there's a few teams that didn't excel in this, and it's hard. If people's families are there, I'm not quite sure what the criteria was for that. If it was game day experience, if it was finding housing, if it was like transportation for families, schools, who knows? But D+ got to do better.
Okay, so just so you know, the quote from the Players Association on treatment of families was, players were asked if their club offers services and support for partners and children, including assistance in sourcing housing, childcare, medical, mental health services, and if family game day facilities were provided. So it's quite wide on what they were what they were asked about. But yeah, that's an important one.
I mean, like, good luck to anyone trying to find childcare in the Lower Mainland. I mean, some of this is city dependent, but yeah, like, do a little bit better. If you want people to come to Vancouver, you need to be doing housing and childcare. The Elks, they were the team that was almost, I think, the most improved. They went from a D+ last year to a B- this year. So huge improvement. And they had the highest score of anyone. They had got a A+ for team travel. So they've clearly done a lot there. And the most commented item that was most commented by every single player that they surveyed was that the hotel accommodations in Edmonton were not up to par.
Yeah.
Every visiting team complained about the hotel. Now, sources have said that it is the Chateau Lacombe. And if that is true, I am not saying it is. If it is true, I am not surprised. I think we were talking, this used to be a really nice hotel, and it is not a nice hotel. Their lobby is hella sketchy. Their rooms have not been renovated for probably 30 years. And it's in this weird little part of downtown Edmonton. There's no restaurants nearby. It's hard to get an Uber over there. It's kind of near the edge of the escarpment down into the river valley, the views are probably really nice, but there's nothing around it. So if guys are trying to go out to eat, hopefully the Elks can find a better hotel to partner with for the upcoming season.
Yes. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I understand it is, whether it's the PA or the CFL itself or something, but there is a group buy on those where when a team comes into town, everybody stays at the same hotel in any given city. So somebody's negotiated that, and hopefully whoever it was takes note and doesn't go back wherever they were last year.
All I could think was Milt Stegall staying in that hotel, and I laughed so hard to myself.
Well, I don't know whether the broadcasters have to stay there. From what I understand, it is negotiated. The hotel accommodations for visiting teams are negotiated by the home team, and then all visiting teams stay there. So it's a partnership between the home. So in this case, the Elks would have arranged with that hotel to host all the visiting teams with X number of rooms on, each time they're in town. So I'm sure it's a bulk rate, and the teams take advantage of that. But nonetheless, the Elks need to do a better job. That's the round. Is that the round one right at the round hotel right at the top of the hill type of idea? Yeah, that used to be one of the classiest places in town. So that's really surprising. It also reminded me a little bit, though, of back in the day when every opposing team used to just complain bitterly about having to go to Ivor Wynn, and the dressing rooms in Ivor Wynn were just like they were vermin infested. They were just horrible. There was no hot water in the visiting dressing rooms. It was brutal, and I almost wonder if it's the home team advantage kind of idea, like just get them off their game type of things. I kind of giggled at that, but at the same time, it shouldn't happen. I mean, what every single team is complaining about, there's a problem,
Yeah, whoever booked that did not get the message that in downtown Edmonton, Ice District is now the place to be.
Yeah.
Not the edge of
Even if it's not downtown, I'm sure you're trying to save a little bit of money. You don't want to pay the, $500 or whatever a night in the Ice District costs at the Westin. So maybe you want to save a couple of dollars, but you don't kind of still be reasonable accommodation.
This is a professional league.
Exactly. And if you're the team that's booking for the people coming visiting and you put them somewhere crappy, that becomes a race to the bottom real quick because everybody will pick up on it.
I mean, if you wanted to do that, just put them all out at the airport so they have to drive an hour and a half to the stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Get them a bunch of shipping containers and put them in there.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yes.
Welcome to Canada.
So that's Edmonton. What else do you have for us?
So the Stampeders, let's just stay in Alberta. We'll go down to the Stampeders, who were a C- last year, and they've moved up to C+. So I think they've improved on diet and nutrition. Maybe the guys are getting hot breakfast this year. They got a D+ for treatment of families, and their coaching staff got a B.
But that's improved from last year.
Yeah.
So coaching staff last year got a C+, right?
I think, well...
No, it wasn't broken out as much last year.
It wasn't broken out as much last year.
No, they just got management and administration was a D- last year. So yeah, it's a slightly different calculation. Yes, I'm interested in seeing your overall average of the team and where that's calculated from, because on the CFL's PA's website, that's not a category. It is average of the league, but not of the team. It goes across, but it doesn't show. So maybe
this is my little shout out. So CFL Stats Geek, they're on, I think, Reddit, Blue Sky, and Instagram, and they averaged it all out for us into a graph.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Yeah,
because I was like, thank you, someone else has done the math work.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I was going to mention just overall about the survey was that I wish the PA had done this right beside it in brackets, last year's numbers to this year's numbers, and then a complete average by team on the far right or whatever the case may be. All they have is a league average at the bottom, so in each category, and even that doesn't have last year's versus this year's, which would also be interesting.
Yeah. So the Riders went from a B to a B plus, and their lowest grade was a C, which was treatment of families. So things are looking pretty good in Riderville. So an improvement all around. I think it's hard. It's hard. I think treatment of families is a really hard category for any team to.
Well, what I'm hearing from you so far, the theme seems to be that across the league, there's a disconnect between what the players expect as far as helping their families out, and what the teams are delivering. So that's why this scorecard is put out there, so the teams know what they have to improve on. Hopefully next year it'll be better.
Yeah. So the Bombers went from a B minus to a B, and their lowest grade was their training camp. But they had a huge improvement on their team travel. Their team travel is now like a B compared to like last year. Remember, they were like, we have this rickety old plane and we all think we might. So they got a new plane, sounds like. Good job, Bombers.
Maybe they were traveling in the plane that they run around the field when they score a touchdown. They got that little biplane there.
The Redblacks, they went from a B minus to a C plus. But I think we all know what was going on in Redblacks on. Their lowest grade, they got a D plus in their strength and conditioning. They had a lot of injuries last year. I think we had, we talked about how they're getting new strength and conditioning coaches and everything. So I think hopefully that looks like an area they're trying to desperately improve.
Yeah, but it's interesting that both the coaching staff and the management as well as players both hit on that independently of each other. So yeah, either the players were really carping on it at the end of the season interviews, or else the management actually noticed it and went, wait a minute, we got to do something about that.
Yeah. So Toronto stayed at a B minus. They were a B minus last year, a B minus this year. Their coaching staff got a D plus.
Well, I got things about that.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear.
Well, I just think of all the reports, I actually thought Toronto was the most interesting. If you look at it, I believe they have 2 A's, an A minus, 2 B minuses, and only the only D they had, which was a D plus, was the coaching staff. And so I'm sure that was a lot of Mr. Dinwiddie blowing up on the sidelines and ragging on people in public and so on and so forth. I also the bloom off the rose on Dinwiddie is getting pretty strong. And on the Argonauts fan site, people are talking about, wait. In October or November when he left, we were aghast and appalled and about to jump off of bridges. And now we're like, yeah, not so much. There's a lot of stuff coming out. And even in Ottawa now, I thought it was interesting this week that they released, and again, this is way off, but we'll get to it. But I just thought it was really interesting that they released Darius Pickett. He was there 1 year, then left to go to Ottawa. They already said, like, I'm done here. I'm not playing with Dinwiddie. Like, I wonder if there's a conflict there. And that's just me speaking out of my hat. But I just thought when you follow the career, the fact that he would move after 1 year in Toronto and then move again as soon as Dinwiddie went to Ottawa, I think speaks volumes. So, yeah, I don't think Mr. Dinwiddie's as popular, and these numbers show it as he'd like to believe, or we were led to believe.
Yeah, I was going to talk about this later, but I'm going to lose my train of thought if I don't tell it now. But the Redblacks have been doing some PR work with him, and they have little videos on Instagram of him calling the season ticket holders. Like him and Sean Burke, they've been have videos of them calling the season ticket holders, asking them to renew their tickets and talking about them and what they're going to do with the team. So I think they're aware of what they need to do to make that a little more palatable. So let's, well, you know what? I'm going to do Hamilton last. Let's go to Montreal, who stayed the same. C+ last year, C+ this year. They got an F for treatment of families. And part of this, I was talking with someone about this, and part of this is they have a similar issue like as Vancouver, but Montreal, it's a francophone town. And I think if anyone's aware of any politics, anything, like there's a big push to not to have any English language going on. So I think there's a lot of French, and guys are coming up from the States or even from like Saskatchewan, and they're not going to know French. And so I'm sure that organization's got a tough task there, trying to get everything organized and trying to find schools, Anglophone schools. And anyway, tough break for them. Hopefully they can clean that up a bit for next year if they want people to stay. But they also got like a D+ on facilities and equipment. But as we discussed, McGill has a turf issue. I'll quickly talk about Hamilton, and then I'm going to say an overarching theme for all of them that everyone got a crappy mark on. Hamilton went from a B to an A-, and they were the top team in the league. Oh, Levi posted on his Instagram. He posted a picture, then he's like, hey, if you're looking to come up to the CFL, come play on our team. Come play on our team. One of the notes was like they had a Thanksgiving dinner for all the families, the players and all their families. And my joke was, if you go play in Hamilton, you're never going to win the Grey Cup, but you and your family are going to get treated well.
And it's not never.
Yeah.
Once every 30 years or so.
Maybe that'll be my 2026. What would you wish would happen?
As long as you have a very long career, you have a shot.
Yeah, this is our year, guys. So what everyone, and a big complaint, I mean, not as complainy as the hotel in Edmonton, but a large complaint was that every single team had an issue with appearance fees and marketing money.
Yes.
Even the riders, which I was like, excuse me, that should just be like easy money for the riders. I'm like, that's part of the draw of going to play for the Riders, is that you're just going to make a bunch of money doing appearances, but apparently not. This is my drama with the CFL and marketing. So the players are not being marketed by the CFL or effectively by their own teams. That's something that every team needs to look at improving on.
Yeah, it's a big part of contracts now, of course. So I think it's important that players actually get their contract fulfilled. And if they're going to put this into their contract, pay them the money and make them do the work at the same time. Get them out there. As you said, MJ, we need the players out there marketing themselves and the teams marketing those players. So it's a two-way street, and both of them should be taking advantage of it.
Or they don't want to pay out the marketing money bonus, so they're not sending them out.
Exactly.
That's
I'd like to
something
step in and say hello.
could be.
Hey, old man, how you doing? Can you see me?
Did something happen there?
Maybe I'm in the way. Hello. How you doing? From the Eskimo Nation?
Not a chance. Get it out of here.
Just
Costco wasn't allowed to
and
sell
say hello.
those.
Happy New Year.
Oh, I see. It's because the screen, you got to get a little bit more behind them.
Too close?
How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
Looking
wonderful.
around, looking good.
If you were there, you should have just jumped in for the whole show.
Anyhow,
You never know when you're going to get a photo bomb on the CFL Outsiders.
I thought I'd just wish y'all a Happy New Year.
Oh,
Thank you much for that. Yeah,
Happy New
I couldn't
Year.
see you at first. It was just this other voice out of the heavens.
Oh, I did. Well,
And you have a nice deep voice, so I thought maybe it was the big one coming on. Ah!
All right, I'll let you have it. Okay, good
Good to see you, Chris. Yeah, thanks for stopping in.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I got him with a
completely
question
lost my
too.
train of thought.
I thought Costco wasn't allowed to sell those.
Anyway,
I had for report card.
Yeah. Okay, we're back now. I was going to say it could be a lack of them wanting to pay out the money, but most of the teams don't have that sort of cheaper reputation. So I'm wondering if it's maybe just what you said, basically, they're not putting in enough effort to schedule these things, to get out and put the people in the community, because that's something they've done for years. The other problem with it may be the ones that are from out of town and only are there for the season. And so they're looking for a lot of events to do their marketing money in season. And I can see that being tougher.
One of the things that I also heard is that it depends on how you measure marketing money, because is marketing money actually going into a high school or a mall or a hospital, or is marketing money doing a 1 minute, video for Instagram where you're touting the team? Is marketing just going on your own website? Is marketing coming on our podcast, et cetera, et cetera? How do you pay and how do you monetize that? And how do you set what level those things are worth? Is on our podcast versus another podcast is a different value, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's many, we're worth way more money than most.
We are worth the most.
Yeah. Just on sheer talent.
On list
and guests just dropping in.
Yeah.
I can
cameo
tell
appearances and everything.
Yeah. I can tell which players have gotten some new marketing money things in their contracts, because all of a sudden they are on Instagram doing videos, and there's a certain Ty Cat who is all over the place now, making videos, comments, like fan engagement. So, yeah.
I really don't know who you're talking about, but can I make a guess? Might he play safety?
He might play safety.
I saw the new contract, so I'm thinking there might be some marketing money in there.
I feel like he's on Instagram about 18 hours a day.
Wow. Okay. Any other thoughts on this before we move on?
I was just surprised that on the ownership of both BC and Montreal, that those two teams, ownership and administration, got really low marks. So maybe it's facilities. It's just interesting that given, the sterling reputation that those two guys have, that they did not score better marks.
Yeah. Well, I know the practice facility in Surrey there that the Lions use, there's been disparaging marks made about it for a while now, but apparently they're in the middle of a full reno. So
yeah, they are. So, but I mean, so you are going to get a low mark on it until, right?
And then next year you'll get hopefully a good one. The only other thing I'd like to see different is, and this is a very minor thing, but they give the average number of players per team that responds. And I wish they'd give us the numbers per team, because it'd be interesting to see if you've got the teams that are sitting up at the top there. Hamilton and Saskatchewan have been the top 1 and 2 both years running. Are maybe players less motivated to rank them because, well, things are good. We don't want to have much to complain about. Whereas if you've got a team that's been at the bottom, or that has, like Edmonton, that's made great strides, apparently, maybe there's a lot of motivation. So it would be interesting to see the engagement per team.
Well, Edmonton, I just want to say quickly, it's hard for Edmonton to compare last year to this year when it's a completely different team with a completely different setup, with a completely different ownership. I mean, those players weren't even there last year to market. If you ask the guys that were, and only did it for the guys that were there last year versus this year, well, maybe it would be a slightly different mark, right? But everybody that got paid, sure, they're going to give good marks generally.
Yep.
Well, I've seen Trey Ford's egg commercials, so he's doing some marketing.
All right.
Yeah.
He's making that. Yeah, well, everything's on the table.
Yeah.
Even the eggs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's move on to what's happened with the teams, because there's been a lot of movement here. So I'll start us in the East. I'll mention what I've got for Montreal. They're one of the ones that I haven't seen so many moves from on them. Basically, I've seen that they released Deontay Ruffin out of the defensive backfield, and they've extended 3 players. Justin Lawrence from the O-line, the punter Joseph Zima, and Alexander Hollins, who they signed halfway through the year last year and really didn't get in very much. So has anybody else heard about anything more than that, or what are your thoughts on what Montreal's doing?
I had them as basically just really quiet since our last call a month ago. They seem to make the splashes early, and then they've been quiet in the last month. And the Hollins signing surprised me. They must have got him for a really good deal, or, maybe it's that whole bounce back year, and it's a low contract this year, hoping to get the money next year, get the bag next year. But I was surprised that they re-signed him. I didn't think they would. And unless there's something else going on there that that they're going to lose somebody else that they're afraid in free agency, so they needed an American receiver.
When I saw that, I was laughing to myself because all I could think of was like when we were talking about the Grey Cup and you were like, why would they throw to Hollins? And I'm like, look, he got extended based on his Grey Cup performance.
I was thinking the same thing, surprisingly enough.
Yeah. I think it's really important they re-sign Zima. Honestly, punting is going to be, I was thinking today, this is going to, we'll talk about it later, but punters are going to start being more valuable than place kickers and kickers, I think, going forward. So that's a big signing for them. And then Danny Machocha said that they're still hopeful that they're going to re-sign Dequoy. But I am wondering if Dequoy saw what Stavros is making and he's hoping to make something close to. I don't think he's going to, but I'm wondering if that's maybe the issue. I wish, you know what, the baseball does this. When they do arbitration, they will tell you what a pitcher comes in at for arbitration. They're like, this is what we want, and then they'll show you, they'll tell you what the club came in at and how far apart they are. And I would love some transparency.
Well, we'd have to know how much players are making first in this league.
But MLB does this constantly, and so you're like, you know exactly what your club thinks that player's worth, and then we'll see. We'll see what happens with Dequoy.
We've got to depend on 3 Down Nation digging it out.
Yeah, good job, boys.
Yeah. I'm surprised at the numbers they do get on a bunch of this stuff, but I'm glad they do. It gives us some idea of what's going on. Okay, Ottawa. Who wants to talk Ottawa?
Well, I would like to talk about this because they took my special teams coordinator.
That's one of the moves I got marked down here.
How dare they? Jeffrey Reinbold is coming. I was like, we should be announcing this in all caps because that's how he always does his social media. But he's back in the CFL and he's going to be, again, for the 10th time. Again, he's going to be the special teams coordinator. So Rick Campbell's out of town. Drew Tate is going to be their quarterbacks coach.
Well, I didn't get that one. I don't have.
Yeah, Drew Tate. And Fields is staying on as DC.
If I can, I'll quick, since we're talking coaches, they also brought in Philip Daniels from the Riders as their D-line coach.
That's right. I would assume that's a good move based on the Riders' D-line over the last few years and the success they've had. So I would assume that's a good move. Now, as one of the coaches said, and the famous quote is, I always coach better with better players. I laughed when Reinbold got rehired again. He's one of those guys that just never goes away. He goes on vacation to Hawaii for a little while and then comes back.
Coaches there for a little bit and then comes. I love him on the sidelines, though. Like, talk about an animated guy.
Yeah,
he's a very unique character.
Yeah, he is.
I like him myself.
I like him too.
And he's up and down. Sometimes his special teams are terrific, and sometimes they're just horrible. So we'll see what he ends up with.
I hope he does well. Good vibes. Ryan, he says that Drew Brown is going to be their starter, and they have restructured Drew's contract. And that Ryan says they want to be aggressive in free agency, so I think that they made him restructure so they're probably like, well, if you want some people to play with, you need to take less money.
I haven't seen any numbers on the restructuring. Have you at all?
No, I haven't seen any either.
Again, some transparency would not go amiss. Yeah, and then they released Pickett, which I was like bad blood with Ryan, but we've already talked about that.
It's going to be interesting to see where they go being aggressive in free agency, what they feel the biggest needs are. I think there's a few guys still out there that are going to be getting paid. But they're the only team I think so far that has flat out said they're going to be aggressive in free agency. Usually it's a couple, but they seem to be the front runners. And it's not like they haven't been there before. So they continue to try that route and maybe they get it this time around. So, Ryan's running the show.
Don't forget there's a huge hole in their quarterback room with Matthew Schultz retiring. So
that's true.
Yes, officially. Officially.
The surprise retirement of Matthew Schultz.
Yeah. When they posted that, I was
shocked. I was shocked.
Yeah, shocked, I say.
They should have just replayed the Tyree Adams interview as his retirement announcement.
Yes. Have you got the signings there too, MJ?
I don't know that have they done any signings?
Mostly minor stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen Ruby, but they've extended Amari Henderson and Adrian Fry from the defensive backfield and Michael Wakefield on the D line. And then the other big news, which I'm surprised you didn't have, was the big trade with Edmonton.
Oh, well, I was going to talk about that when we talked about Edmonton, but we'll talk about it now.
Well, we can do either way. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, Morgan for draft picks. I think it was Morgan draft picks for draft picks.
And a weird thing, I've got this here. Basically, Ottawa gets Niles Morgan. They get a 3rd-round pick from Edmonton and a 5th-round pick from Edmonton. Edmonton, in return, gets a 3rd-round pick and a 4th-round pick. So in the 3rd round, they swapped 1st to 23rd. So Edmonton jumped up 2 steps to do that. And the other one, they at least gained a round on it.
It's a gain of a round, but it's only 4 actual players from where they fall. So basically, they gave up Niles Morgan to move 2 spots and 4 spots.
Yeah.
That's what they get. And well, as Ed said, there's lots of linebackers.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know what? He was one of the players that would run the flag football camps that my kid went to. And I actually messaged him to say thank you. Because I was like, I know you're leaving to go to Ottawa, but just thanks for being so great for my kid. He's like, well, I'm staying here in the off season because he has a business running camps over the winter.
Oh, nice.
So if anyone wants to do camps over the winter with Niles Morgan, he's in Edmonton for the off season.
I had that in my Ottawa notes and my Edmonton notes. I think that was a steal for Ottawa. I really do.
For sure. I'm Ed Hervey must just wanted him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not according to Ed in his presser, yes, on Monday.
Ed and his pressers.
I want to talk about that.
I don't think it was so much he wanted them gone as he was probably the highest priced one because he's the veteran one out of that group. So, the Blanco may make more having the Canadian status, but I can see that's why they went with Morgan and just kept the 2 lower priced replacements.
That's not always, you're sending a really experienced guy over to an already strong defense. So joke's on you.
Yep.
And Edmonton's defense needs an anchor. They need more anchors. So I don't know. I guess money's it's just money, right? Just business.
I'm not a GM, so he's a better GM than I am. So there we go. All right, I think that beats the heck out of what Ottawa's done. GT, you got a rundown of what Toronto's done this so far?
I think Toronto's been relatively quiet in the player thing. They've signed a few guys. They've signed some Canadian linebackers. They've done a few things, but it hasn't been, to me, it hasn't been the player stuff as much as they finally announced their full coaching staff. And that was the most interesting thing. I thought there was a couple of interesting names on that list that they brought back. Bringing back Maxey as defensive line coach after the whole shenanigans against Dinwiddie last year. I thought that was kind of interesting. He did have a great success in Toronto as a D-line coach, had no success at Edmonton as a special teams coach. So maybe he's just a D-line guy, and that's where he should be. So I think that's a good move. I thought bringing in Kadeem Carey as the running back coach was a very surprising name. I didn't think that wasn't on my bingo card, as they say. So that's an interesting move if he can follow some of the other guys like Andrew Harris, because certainly they need him. They need some running back coaching in Toronto based on last year. So that's one thing. And then bringing in a high school coach from the U.S. just because he's your old buddy. And he's going to be assistant something and something. And I was like, that one's a little, maybe the guy's really great, but that one struck me as a little nepotistic. And so I was a little surprised at that. I think still the only thing that is still not surprising, but the only player thing that they've talked about already, which we've already heard, is Chad is going to be healthy and he is going to be the number 1 QB going into camp, which none of us should be surprised by. The only other thing that came out of the statements from Monday's pressers at the meetings was that Pinball kind of hinted that he's not long for the job, that it was not flat out by any means, but he kind of hinted that he might not be long for the job there. He'll always be involved in the team, he said, but he might not be GM. So I thought that was fairly interesting.
Well, exactly. And in some ways that kind of makes sense because, I mean, he's a great ambassador. But from what I understand, he doesn't do a lot of the true GM workload. And one of the things that came out when Dinwiddie left was that they seem to be very, very frugally staffed, let's say. They don't seem to have a lot of the front office staff. So if you're already short on people and you have a GM who's not GMing, I can see why you might want to make a change. As far as the players went, there was no, like you said, not a lot of big news. They released Mayan Williams, who was the star running back they brought in last year, who was supposed to take over the league, and D lineman that I'm not even sure who it is. And then they've extended 5, and their names you'll know, but the only really sort of important one, I think, is Benji Franklin at the corner there. They extended him. They extended Jack Cesar, Isaac Delangelo, David Unger III, and they brought Jumpin' Jake Kerslow back. So as long as he can take up where he's left off next year, that'll help. Anything else?
Yeah. Well, just that Javon Johnson and Kadeem Carey going in there, they're kind of pulling like an Elks did last year, where they have some former players, new blood in the coaching roles. So hopefully that pans out. Because we need new people. We can't just Jeffrey Breinbull can't come back every 2 years all the time.
No, there's a lot of recycling, but there's been teams that have done that, and it brought in players right off of their game, and it's worked out well. And then there's been others where it hasn't. I'm trying to think. I'm just can't remember the name. You'll know, GT, the DC from Calgary that went and got the head coach gig in BC for a year.
Devon Claybrook.
Claybrook. Yes, and he brought in a bunch of players that had just retired, and that did not work that season for them. So
no,
up and down. But we now move on to Hamilton. Guess who gets to do that one? Go ahead, MJ.
So I think I'll start at the top, the GM position, and work my way down. The Ticats have decided to GM by committee this year. They have an assistant GM, Alex Russell, but they do not have a GM. They have brought in Brock Sutherland, and his title is Senior Director of Player Personnel. So I don't really know. They have a Director of Player Personnel, so I don't know. So yeah, they've just decided they're not going to have a GM. They're like, it's working fine. We'll just keep it this way. So we'll see.
They get high marks on their scorecard. So apparently
we're not
going to
win a Grey Cup, but your family will enjoy their time in Hamilton. So big news, Bob Dice is now special teams coordinator. I hope his dog is on the field this year. That'll add to my enjoyment of the game. So I honestly thought Bob was either going to take a year off or La Police was going to convince him to come work for flag football for a while. I was sure of it, but no, he's down in Hamilton. And then Jared Baines has been promoted to Scott Milanovich is going to let someone else be offensive coordinator, you guys. It's going to happen. Maybe. We'll see. He's going to try. They're going to try it out. But so he has been promoted to offensive coordinator and QB coach. So Scott's letting off the reins a little. So now, players. We got some player drama here. Casey Sales. They released Casey Sales, and they said it was money related. And he got picked up by BC. So he's in BC now. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, it's because part of the reason maybe is because Stavros Kastantonis is now the highest paid safety in the league. He is making, I think they said $200,000 a year. Maybe some also
$200,000 and $5,000 in incentives. So it's $200 in hard money and $205 possible.
And I'm pretty sure, based on his Instagram, some marketing money.
Yes, I'm sure.
And then they extended Revenberg, and I have a note that's to keep Bo upright. And today they re-signed Julian Hauser. So that's good news for them. And then just like the Stampeders, actually now there are 4 Ticats that have signed NFL contracts. Nick Constantino, their punter, has signed with the Browns. Isaiah Wooden has signed with the Browns. Verisuk is been released. We don't know who he's signing with yet. Jose Ramirez has been released. I don't know who they're signing with yet.
Yeah, Verisuk is the Colts.
Was it that they announced? Okay, I didn't see that. When I
saw that today. Yeah, and Jose Ramirez, who frankly was not on my NFL players going to the NFL bingo card, but yeah, I haven't seen.
He wasn't even on the NFL workout tracker. Like he was just completely under the radar.
But he'll been released apparently.
That means he'll be the guy that sticks.
For sure. He's going to play 10 seasons. So those are some big days. So they're going to have the GM committee is going to have some work to do to fill some positions.
Yes. Starbus, I'll never say his name properly. Anyway, by the way, apparently is now the top paid Canadian DB with the money he's making.
Well, deserved, I think. He played lights out.
So a couple of things that in the coaching staff there that I noticed is not only is Bob Dice special teams, but he's also assistant head coach.
Is he? I didn't see that in the presser.
Yeah. He's assistant head coach. So that I thought was interesting. And then Jared, what is it? Barris? What's his last name?
Barris Barris, I think.
Baines.
No, it's not. Baines. Jared Baines
is what I've got here.
Yeah. But I was like, okay, who's that? I never heard of this guy. And then I looked it up and they went through he's worked his way up and, through the league. But I'm like, okay, so he doesn't strike me as a guy. It's interesting. I just thought, I've never heard of that name as quote unquote, an up and coming offensive coordinator to hand him the keys. As you said, if Scott's angling for that GM job and handing the kids the keys. But I was just, I was surprised because I never heard of that guy before. And it wasn't, usually they're at least rumored.
He's going to pull a Jose Ramirez and be the top offensive coordinator in the league.
Well, hey, if we stop hearing about Mark Mueller, it'd be good. So there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Because, 60% of the league was Mark Mueller last year.
Yeah. Oh, they say. I was just going to mention Mark too, because I was going to say 2 things. First of all, apparently Baines was their quarterbacks coach last year. So, and I was going to say it'll be interesting to see, is he really the OC, or is it the situation they had the first year or so that Mueller was doing it in Calgary, where he got to call the first half, and then you notice Dave on the headphones a whole lot in the second half.
Well, all I can think is Bo must really like him.
Maybe.
Makes sense. And that's the other thing. The numbers came out for what Bo's making. And it's not big money for a quarterback. He's $485,300 hard money and can make $15,300 in incentives. So he's taken a bit of a dip to stay there. Yeah, I mean, it's up from last year, but
yeah, he's making more, but not making top dollar. And I was going to mention that overall. It's interesting that the 3 veteran quarterbacks that have all re-signed and all are, all-stars and have won cups have all taken pay cuts and or very team-friendly deals between Bo, Trevor, and Cody. They've all taken very team-friendly deals this year to be able to, as we say, free up money to sign other players. And in the meantime, you've got the young hotshots all sucking up money. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go this year.
The last thing I've got on Hamilton is that they've also signed Chris Kolankowski.
Yes.
Who we'll talk about on the next team because he was with them last year. Okay. So that takes us to Winnipeg. How about you, GT? Do you have much on them, notes on them? That lets me jump in on the Riders.
Well, I thought Winnipeg's been relatively quiet recently. I mean, I think that we all talked about the coaching staff previously, so I don't know that we need to go over
Tommy
it again.
Condell's new.
They hired Tommy.
Yeah, we knew that. Yeah, but we kind of talked about that and knew that. So I guess we can reiterate it.
He was interviewing. No, because I have a funny story. Story about
Tell
this.
us the funny story.
So the Bombers announced Tommy Condell. You guys said that Brady wouldn't sign if he was there. And
I didn't think he would.
Look what's happened. They've pulled an Edmonton Elks. So the day that I'm sorry, I'm laughing because the day the Bombers posted this on their Instagram that they signed Tommy Condell, Brandon Banks, aka Speedy B, writes a comment under it saying, like, hope the Peg has a Speedy B on the team for all the behind the line of scrimmage plays.
Mm-hmm.
That brought you some joy because
Yes.
Oh my God.
It should be given what their team history is, how they've played up till now, and that it should be an interesting matchup.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how upset is Brady?
Well, but he had to know that when he signed, so they must have done something.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I saw the interview, and he said, "Well, I'm not a pass option OC. I can run the ball just as many times." No, you can't.
No, you can't.
Yes. Yes. Maybe you say you can, but we haven't seen it yet.
Not in how long?
No. So anyway,
sorry, Bomber fans. Sorry. Anyway, I enjoyed. I like when the former players just pop in to be a little bit shady. Made my day.
The only other thing I saw there recently was they paid Evan Holmes a lot of money, and
yeah,
their backfields are getting pretty expensive. I'm a big fan of Evan Holmes, so I think he's worth the money. But yeah, it's getting it'll be interesting to see who else they can get to and where they're going to have to shave a few dollars here and there.
Apparently, there's they paid Cramdy a lot. Like Holm is 180 in hard money and can make 186 with incentives. Apparently he's the top paid American DB now. But they say that right behind him is Cramdy and was it Nichols that they paid fairly big money to? I can't remember. Possibly because he's been extended. So that's a lot of money to tie up in one defensive backfield.
Absolutely. But maybe they're not planning on paying any old guys on the line anymore. Maybe they're bringing in new and inexpensive young linemen instead.
Yeah, well, they released Kolinkowski, but like I said, who ended up in Hamilton. That's one that they've dropped from there. That O-line is getting long in the tooth, so hopefully they're doing something with it. They did extend Tui Eli, I think it's pronounced, who was their sixth O-lineman last year and touchdown catcher. And they also extended Nichols and Nick Dembski.
Tyler Algarisma got drafted by the Birmingham Stallions for the UFL. So
I don't know that
I don't know. It depends on how much they want to pay him.
Well, I understand they pay a set salary. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the whole thing about the UFL is I believe the quarterbacks can make more. They have a set salary as well, but it's more than everybody else so that they have the option, but it's still a set salary. You can't make a ton of money. It's all about hoping for the shot. Or that's why guys are leaving now because they're recognizing, well, I can play here for 2 or 3 years, but if I don't get my shot, I'm only going to ever make 75 or 85 or whatever. Their number is better off the top. Their number pays better than an American rookie makes in the CFL. You can make more money in the UFL, but you can't make that for forever. You can only make that. That's all you're ever going to make versus you can make 185 or something or 250 as a receiver here. You can never do that in the UFL. And I think players are starting to recognize that. And that's why you're starting to see more players from that league come up again. And I think as well, that league is still so unstable that we're seeing players drift up faster than we did a few years ago when they were still saying, I can get more exposure in the American game. So if Algazma wants more U.S. exposure, that might be good for him. But as I can't see it, again, at some point in time, if you're better off coming up and playing here, I think, than having a shot at making more money than playing down there and maybe getting a shot back in the U.S. But I don't know. I can't see it.
I take the different opinion. I could see him doing it for a year because he played 3-down ball in university. He hasn't got the tape of 4-down ball. He's looked good in his tryouts, but can't seem to get on there. So I could see him going, well, maybe I'll play a year down here, show what I can do in the 4-down game. And frankly, if it doesn't work for him, he can come up to Winnipeg in the next 3, 4, 5 years and know he's got a job.
I don't disagree with you. I think that is a legitimate plan, and it might happen, but but that would be the only reason to do it, I guess.
Yeah. That's the only thing that makes any sense at all. Even if he'd been playing as a quarterback at an American school,
yes,
then it wouldn't make as much sense. But it's just because he's got such limited exposure, limited tape on 4-down football. Alrighty. So then we jump over to Saskatchewan, who've been somewhat active. They lost Dante Myers to the Bengals in the NFL. He signed a futures down there. On the coaching side, they bumped Josh Bell up from the DB coach to the official DC. So another head coach that's shedding a coordinator title that he had with them. Last year, Corey was both the head coach and defensive coordinator. And then they bumped up Jordan Linden, who I really know nothing about. He was just a defensive assistant. He is going to now be the DB coach. And as you mentioned earlier, GT, Micah Johnson has retired from football and is moving immediately to be their new D-line coach, which freed up Philip Daniels to go to Ottawa. So it's all just, it's like musical chairs.
Yeah.
And then as far as players go, they're actually locking up the players that I like to see them locking up. They made Sam Emulus the highest paid Canadian receiver in 26 and $290 and 27. And I couldn't see if that was hard money or with incentives or whatever, but it was there. But they also re-signed Jackson Ford, who's backup safety and a heck of a special teamer and may be the starter this year. It's hard to say. They got Caleb Sanders locked up, and that may not be a team that people recognize. He wasn't a starter, but he was, when he got into he was a defensive tackle, and he was a stalwart in the middle of that D line. He was awful hard to run on. And then again, all other than Emulus, it's all defense. Mira Thurman was extended, and they got Trayvon Campbell back for another year. To me, they look like they're doing what they did the year before this, getting the players that they want to keep. Although I've seen some stuff that Malik Carney may not come back, that they may not be able to agree on what he's worth. So, you guys got anything I've missed on them?
Yeah, no, I think Malik Carney's gone. I think I think that writing's on the wall. Because it doesn't sound like it's just money. It sounds sour in anything that I've read as well. So that one, I think he's going to get paid somewhere. I think I'm really excited for Josh Bell. I've been a big fan of Josh Bell since he was a player in Calgary, and then immediately turned into a DB coach, and then kind of went and had a kerfuffle in the early part of COVID and was one of those guys that wouldn't get vaccinated. So he had to leave the league. And then he came back to Toronto, and he's been working his way back up since. And I thought it was interesting now that he's DC, the other thing it does is that they can't lose him, right? A team can't offer him a DC job, and he can't say it's a move up, it's a lateral. So now the only place they can lose him to is a head coaching job, which I think he's going to be at some point. I believe he's going to be a head coach. So I think that's a great move. And yeah, Saskatchewan's looking like they're just solidifying themselves from last year. And I think they've done a great job again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if he got the promotion because there were others interested. I mean, there are some teams that are rebuilding coaching staffs, and yeah, I think they might have lost him. So good move. And again, we'll see if it's a real DC or is he calling the Mace calls, so hopefully it's good.
Yeah, no, I don't see Mace being that kind of a guy. I think Mace is, he's always been, if he trusts you, he's going to let you do your job. So I think that'll be fine. All righty. MJ, let's have you do Edmonton, and then that leaves GT for Calgary again.
Well, this will be short since we already talked about Niles Morgan. They have not announced their 2026 coaching staff yet. I was looking, there's some teams that haven't announced, finalized, and they're one of the teams that hasn't, so we'll see. Ed did say that they are going to start talks with Trey Ford soon. So
the funniest thing I've seen in a long time was the presser for Edmonton.
I didn't see it, so please.
So, of course, the very first question, so it's both of them. It's Ed and it's Killam. And it's the two of them are sitting side by side. The very first question, of course, is the three down guys asking Ed, so what's going on with Trey Ford? And Ed goes into, well, all options are on the table. He may be here. And Mark Killam is just sitting there.
Like, no, he's not.
He's just didn't want to say anything, just stone faced, right? And he's leaning back like this. It was like the worst body language I could ever. I was just like, oh, this is too funny. Just hilarious. But then the rest of the interviews went on, and Killam was like that for the whole interview. So then it wasn't as funny. But snapshot at the beginning was absolutely priceless. Absolutely priceless. And yeah, it was like, Ed was pretty funny, and he then went on to talk about how the linebackers are really excited by their linebacking core, and Niles had to move on, and I started giving him fly. I'm like, yeah, no, you just threw him under the bus back in November. It was really quite something. Yeah, it was really quite something. Yeah. So so Trey Ford is still in the win, no matter what Edmonton is saying. He's still in the win. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
And maybe they are doing some work finding some new hotel options for visiting.
Maybe.
Could be, yeah. But you're right. Other than that, they've been quiet. I saw 2 extensions from them. They extended Brock Mogensen, who was the linebacker that came in when Morgan got hurt last year, and J.J. Ross, who's a DB. And other than that, I haven't seen really anything.
There was, at one point in time, I seem to remember Dublanco getting a couple of workouts in the U.S., but since then it's been very quiet. So I don't know if they lose him as well after trading Morgan. Then I think all of a sudden that linebacker core, which was really, really amazing, it will be soft. But he's 27, 28, so I don't believe that's the whole thing. I don't think he's going to get a shot just based on age. So
he was working out with the Packers, but that was the only team.
Yeah. And he's not, I hate this, I'm just absolute Alex Singleton. He's not Alex Singleton is what I was going to say. He's good, but he certainly hasn't played at that level. Mind you, if they lost him, they would still have this, how's the guy's name pronounced again? Mogensen at middle and Anderson at the weak side. So they'd still have a good set of backers, but their depth would be gone.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just a dime a dozen, aren't they?
Yeah, apparently.
Easy to find those guys.
Okay. That brings us on to Calgary. So, GT, you going to start with the good news or the bad news?
The Stampeders have lost some players. There's no doubt about it. And they're all really important. Alfred, going to New Orleans. Hutchins, I think, is in Green Bay, if I remember correctly.
Vikings.
Minneapolis Vikings, right. Roberts might have gone to Green Bay then.
Vikings as well.
Vikings as well? Okay.
It's kind of like the Lizzo song, like New Man.
So they lost 3 guys there, really, really, really important, but they did manage to re-sign Markel Lee, which I think is huge. I think that's really important. Yeah, that's the good news. They also re-signed Wiley yesterday on the D-line, and he did fill in occasionally and looked okay as a really good rotation guy. I don't believe he's Hutchins by any means, but if they could maybe get Malik Carney, that might be okay, and that would fill a hole there because they need inside guys with really. So, yeah, and then of course, the other big news was Jarius Jackson as QB coach, and I think that's really exciting.
Really exciting.
It's exciting in that he's I think an underrated coach. I think it continues the path of that offense, an exciting throw the ball down the field offense with that he runs. So I think it's good, and I think I'm wondering as well, is that a chess piece to move a year later as Dave finally moves up? Does Jarius take over and finally get the job? I wonder. That's just something I thought about immediately, because some of these things are chess pieces for a move down the road. And then again, of course, Jarius and Trey have a history and Trey would fit right into that system and mentor behind Vernon, and I think that could be good. Again, just throwing it out there. Nothing, there's so many possibilities, but it's just interesting. And they've got a lot of work to do. Stampeders got a lot of work to do to try to maintain last year's record. They're not surprising anybody in 2026.
No, that's true. Mind you, another thing in Trey's favor, it doesn't hurt to have your backup potential future quarterback have a real mad on against Edmonton. Because
yeah.
Well,
now, Dave
Calgary than anywhere else.
Yeah, Dave did say in his presser that PJ Walker is recovering and is ahead of schedule, and he liked what Walker showed last year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he didn't discount Walker. So it sounds like they're bringing him back, if nothing else. But that can always change as well. Again, they're all in that same style.
I'm extremely excited for the Stampeders, for Dave, VA, and Jarius trifecta. I think that's just magic. And Jarius, if Trey ends up there, Jarius, he interviewed for that head coaching job, right? So this is a battle of Alberta. Mark Killam's up in Edmonton. A little bad blood is great for Labor Day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
The other two notes I had is I think they extended Mills before our last show, but the money's come out now. He's the highest paid, apparently, running back now at $173 hard money and up to $196.5 as with the incentives and whatnot. And sad news. I hate to say it, but the era of the dribble kick in CFL football is officially over. Jeshwan Antwi has retired from the Calgary Stampeders. I don't know anyone else can do it. He's the only one I've seen.
They showed that and hit the Instagram post. They had a video of him doing that. It was really nice.
Yeah. Well, how could you not?
Yeah. Other Stampeder, I don't know if you saw that they signed a kicker.
I did not see that.
I saw that.
Dawson Hodge from Laurier.
Yeah. Yes, I saw that.
Yes. Well,
we know Rene said he's only got this year left. Yeah, this is the retirement year for him. So they needed to sign at least one, if not two or three.
Well, you got to keep in mind with Paredes, he's at the retirement age most of us get.
Right,
isn't he?
Pretty close.
Sean.
Well, Sean resigned for another year.
Yeah, yes, he did.
He figured after his statement he'd get one more year out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All righty then. BC. I'll let you take the last one, GT, to finish us off.
Well, not much news there recently either. I thought they've been relatively quiet. They signed Sales. I mean, we knew that they'd signed, why am I thinking running back? Did they sign
they signed Sankey.
Sankey, that's it. Sorry. Yeah, Sankey, a linebacker. So, yes.
What's this face's, what's that guy's name in Awe? So they have Awe and Sankey on the same team now.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, so I'm not, but I think Awe's a free agent, so I'm not sure that he will be brought back.
Yeah,
but possibly. So that one was and as I said, they signed Sales. I was surprised, and again, it may only be because they haven't announced their staff yet, but I don't think they've announced their full staff for this year.
No, they haven't.
But as far as I know, Benavides is still going to be the DC, so that's sort of interesting. I didn't think he would be there. But yeah, I think they've been relatively quiet over the last little while. So
yeah, they have actually signed a fair number of players that you'll recognize. But again, they're not necessarily the biggest names. You mentioned White. They've signed Michael Couture and Chris Sluger, I believe you pronounce it, on the O-line. They've extended Nathan Cherry and Siona Tiema both from the D-line, and Gary Peters in the backfield, who's, I think, 34 or 35, has been re-signed as well. But probably the biggest news there is that they also lost Robert Carter Jr. to the Colts down in the NFL.
And I heard he signed I think he said he signed a 3-year deal with them or something. So
I didn't hear that. That would be impressive.
No, yeah, I thought it was. Yeah, I didn't hear that. I just thought they were
maybe
all
it was somebody else.
Yeah, I thought they were everything.
Somebody said that, and then I saw it was a Futures today, so I actually don't really know. Yeah, I've seen two differing things.
So I was going to ask you guys. So now that we've gone through all the teams and talked about players,
most importantly, you guys, most important for the Lions is that Jeremiah Mazzoli has not been re-signed yet, and so The Mazzoli tracker is still ticking.
Yeah, there's still time, though.
Sorry.
So we're not in
Still
free
time.
agency yet.
Sorry, continue on.
So I was going to ask you, out of all the players that have signed in the NFL, pick one or maybe two that you think will actually stick. Who is the most likely to stick?
I think Alford.
Yeah, he's certainly got the measurables.
He's got, well, everyone's like, he's the exact dimensions they want. So, and then probably Jose Ramirez, GT.
Yeah.
He'll
yeah,
probably
we said
be
that already.
he'll be on the all-star team.
Yeah. And maybe Constantino as a punter, because that's a little bit of an easier one to do.
He's already been there.
Yeah.
Okay. Constantino's already been there and come back. So I don't know. That to me is not I don't think so. I think it's going to be the number 1 and number 2 pick from last year's draft. I think it's going to be Alford and Versa.
Yeah.
I think those are the two guys. And maybe what's his name out of BC?
Carter.
Sorry. Yes, Carter. Those three, because and the reason I say that is because, as you mentioned, MJ, the Alford just has everything that they want. So he's going to get bounced around at least. He's going to get at least 2 years just, bouncing around before he's back. Versa, I think, has that Alex Singleton type of stuff. He's got the size, and he's probably going to get a special teams role and then work his way up, or may only be a special teams guy. But I think he has the possibility of being a special teams player this year and then go and working his way up from there, like Singleton did. And because he has the same kind of motor, and even though he doesn't have the experience that Singleton did at that point. And then I think Carter again, I'm not so sure about him because of his size, but he has such athletic ability. And the thing about all three of them is they're the youngest. They're all 22 and 23 years old, right? So they're not 27 and 28. And I think those other guys that the NFL is just, you come in, and if you don't, like at 27, if you're not impressive in day 1, you're not there on day 2. But if you're 22, you've got till day 3 and 4 and 5 to make the difference. So I think that's the biggest difference. Those three guys are all young enough to make it. A guy like Dante Myers, he's going to be back by October. There's just been so many players, that receivers particularly, that have gone down and just they're not able to make it. They're just not. And that's nothing against them, but I just don't think they get the opportunity to really show their stuff. And they're at the age where the teams aren't willing to give capital to them. So
yeah, I'm not sure what Myers' age is. I think he's a bit on the younger side, but I agree with you. He's not spectacular enough to stand out in the receiver field, and he's fast, but he's not super fast, and he's not big, and there's all of that. Personally, I think I don't know who's going to make it. It's also such a crapshoot. The three that I don't think will make it at all, that I feel fairly confident on, are, despite what you said, Verisak, Hutchings, and Roberts. And that's got nothing to do with them as players. It's just the history I've seen. Verisak is the Colts. It's the Vikings for the other two from Calgary. And both those teams have a long history of bringing players down on futures and then cutting them at training camp.
Yeah,
I can remember only one player making it with the Colts, so.
Have you seen the Colts play lately? They need some help, so that they might...
know, but still, I don't know what it is. They might, but it's just those two teams, they always seem interested, but it never seems to play out for the players, so.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that, and I had kind of the same thoughts as well on those specific teams, but because of that. But I just think, Verisak, again, he might not, like Singleton, he might bounce around. He might go from one team, he might not be the Colt eventually, but I think somebody's going to say, this is a kid we can mold. He's got the motor, he's got the size, we can mold this kid. So I think even as a special teamer, if nothing else. So.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, or get at least the practice roster spot and go from there.
Yeah.
So looking at this all, there were, 7 or 8 players, I think, that went down there, but really the biggest hit got on the two teams, on Hamilton and Calgary. So uniquely positioned to talk about this here with the two fans here. Who's going to be hurt more by the fact that they're going to be missing these players at least till Labor Day?
Personally, I think it's Calgary. Because I think, because I think, again, I don't think he lasts long at all.
Okay, but he is a returner. Ticats are missing a returner. They're missing a punter. Like, those are your special teams. Bob Dice has some trouble ahead. He's going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I understand your point, but I think both of those positions are relatively easy to replace as well. It's a lot. I think the middle linebacker that you finally got after searching around for a few years is going to be the hardest to replace.
That is also going to be awful.
And I think both of those guys are probably going to be back by the end of the year, if then, certainly by next year. And because why do you need this was a question raised. It's funny that returners are getting shots in the NFL where they don't even return the ball anymore, hardly. So it's kind of weird that way.
Have you seen, though, there was a playoff game where the ball bounced off a guy's face. So clearly they need someone who's able to catch a ball that's off the foot of a kicker, because there's clearly some issues on some teams.
Yeah. And again, but we've seen plenty of success with the global kickers coming in, so it's not hard to find one in my mind. And Calgary, if you look at it, they're losing an interior lineman, they're losing a key linebacker, and they're losing, a Canadian wideout with speed and size. I think Calgary's getting hit harder. Well, I just do.
They have Barnes.
Yeah.
So I don't. So Alford going, I mean, it sucks, but it's not they didn't play him actually a whole lot once Barnes was back. So, but Hutchings and Roberts are tough.
I think the biggest loss you have with Alford is what he would have been, not what he was last year, because he did have the hamstring that took him out for a good chunk of the middle of the season and that, but he had so much potential. So there's that.
And he's ratio, right? That's the other thing. And he's ratio. As is Verisak, right? It's
and Verisak is maybe more important in ratio because there are getting to be more Canadian linebackers, good ones, but they're not. It's still not as much as the receivers are out there. So we'll see. To me, it's a hard one. I do think Calgary gets hurt a little bit more just because their defense was what carried them the first half of the season. Now, I don't know that it's going to be as bad as a lot of people are thinking, because I think a lot of people are probably coming away with the thought of Calgary's defense the way it played in the last 4 or 5 games of the season and the playoffs, where they started to tail off a bit. But Hutchings was out some there, yes, but much more important, Flo was out.
Flo was gone.
And without Rimladi in there, that's a whole different defense. So I think him being back will mitigate some of the damage to Calgary. All righty then. I think that's covered off everything from the teams. So what do you guys want to talk about from the meetings this week? Any hot takes?
Yeah, this doesn't really fit in anywhere, but Henry Burris is no longer at Florida AMA. And I'm hoping that he's on the TSN panel this year. But there's a couple people who don't have their coaching staff set yet, so.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't see him with the way his coaching career has gone. I don't see him coming in anywhere at anything less than a coordinator level. So, and those are largely set. I think TSN panel is a better spot for him.
TSN needs a quarterback on their panel.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're short on that right now. So,
yeah.
I'll say one of the things that a very minor thing, but that I was really disappointed with, because it just sort of tells me where the league's head seems to be at. They're considering, and hopefully they don't bother doing it, but apparently they're considering doing a draft of American college players.
Well, they said no today.
Oh, good. No, that was it. That was the most inane thing. I'm sure that was a Stuart Johnson suggestion. That was the most inane thing I've ever heard, because whatever. But overall, with the league meetings, I would just say that the list of stuff that they had on that's like our podcast. It's ridiculous. It just goes on and on and on and on. It's just like.
Exactly.
Like you're not fitting this in, and you're not fitting this all in 3 days or 2.5 days. It's just like impossible to give that much stuff serious consideration.
And then they wasted time with a presser that could have just been a news release today. I don't even know.
Well, I will watch it later, but give us the Coles note.
Well, let's see. Game clock. The Rules Committee has recommended leaving the game clock at 20 seconds for the final 3 minutes. I mean, for 20 seconds for the final 3 minutes, but for the second and fourth quarter. But 35 seconds for the rest of the time. And I thought this was kind of stupid and dumb. So just there's going to be a lot of confusion.
It's basically, but it'll basically be at the 3-minute warning, right? After the 3-minute warning, whenever that takes place, whether that's at 3 minutes or 2:57 or 2:51 as it often is, they'll change to the 20-second clock. My question is going to be, okay, and because there's two things. First of all, with the 35-second clock, I thought it's going to be one of those things that a year from now, you won't even notice it's changed. Like it's going to be a big deal for the first 2 months. And then maybe by Labor Day and you won't even notice that the clock is now a regular 35-second clock. But then I thought, well, okay, if you're not even going to notice the change, then why change? Like if it doesn't make that big a difference and you have to admit that the last 3 minutes is the most exciting part of the game, so we're leaving it this way because we don't want to lose it, then why are you making the other change?
Yeah. Then exactly.
You know, like I get it. People are hard and fast on this 35 seconds of speeding up the game, and maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe it will. I'm ambiguous on that one, but my whole thing is if you're saying you want to leave the last 3 minutes of each half because that's the most important in the old rules, well, then why did you change the rule? If that's the best part of the game, why are you changing the rule? Anyway, so that one was silly in my mind.
I also think it's
I
silly.
will say on it, I'm kind of like you. I think for everything but the last 3 minutes of the half, you won't notice any difference. But I think you really would have noticed it in the last 3 minutes. So I'm glad I applaud what they're doing if they're going to do the rule change.
Absolutely. I mean, if they had gotten rid of the last 3 minutes, I think you would have the whole thing would have erupted again. You know, like
watching NFL playoffs this past weekend, and there is 25, 30 seconds left in the clock, and there's just coaches and players walking out onto the field, shaking hands. And I'm like, if this is the CFL, you could do like 3 more plays.
Yeah, exactly.
You can get the ball back.
Yeah. There could be 2 scores.
There could be. And they're all just milling around on the field while the clock's ticking down.
And 25 seconds, as from what I understand, that's relatively close. I mean, I've heard about it with a minute or a minute and a half left. They're already packing it in.
Well, there was some close games, though, this weekend, you guys.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
I kept seeing CFL football
CFL
in the NFL.
Finishes.
Yeah. Yes. Well, but before we go any further, I do want to do a little mini rant on that whole American draft because I won't go long on it, but my point was they said their justification for it was, well, the college players in the U.S. have bigger names, so we'll get more attention if we draft U.S. players. And my thought was, no, because first of all, you're not going to draft any big names because they'll sign in the NFL. And secondly, promote your damn Canadian university players. Work with U Sports to get out there and get these names out before the draft. Rant, that's it.
Did they actually say that, or was that just a supposition?
I can't remember if it was, I've heard it somewhere along the line. To be quite honest, I don't know if it was a CFL statement or if it was someone else that was talking about it and I just picked it up. I do know it made the whole idea made my blood boil.
Because if that was league personnel saying that, like, it's even scarier than, somebody else. But it was inane. Like, first of all, there's way too many players to draft. Second of all, it means, as you said, old man, you're not getting any recognizable names anyway, so it's redundant. The draft is even more, but it's only going to make you look even more like silly. And third of all, you get more players movement and signings via the current system with the neg list than you ever would in a draft. So why would you even want to give it up? That's where I go back to that list of stuff that they said they wanted to talk about. It was like, just take this off. Like, why is it even here? You know, like, come on. And there was a few other on the list too, the whole list of stuff that they said they were going to talk about. I mean, thank goodness they told us, because it just made it look, like, guys, like, I've been in enough business meetings to know this agenda's way too long. We're not getting anything accomplished. This is just inertia, that's not going to nothing's going to happen.
I'm just wondering how much of that was like a fluffy, like, PR agenda, and how much of it is a real agenda.
Some of them might be foregone conclusions.
Yeah, there should have been two things to talk about on that agenda. Cascading rules implications, or whatever the hell they call that. That should have been it, basic, and lunch. Those should have been the two things to talk about. That's it.
Yep, pretty much. Although they did, as you guys were kind of joking about earlier, they changed the overtime rules a bit. They've now said no ties at all. It'll go the 2 mini games the same way we do, and then apparently from there, if it's still tied, they take turns from the 3-yard line until somebody scores more points than the other one does. So
they've basically done hockey overtime rules now, because hockey does 3-on-3 for 5 minutes, and then they do a shootout. So I was like, well, if the hockey lowers the amount of people on the field for the conversions, should we just like not have the lines on?
Yeah. Why don't they just do place kicks and they field goals? So they just do field goals and have each kicker come out from the 20, then come out from the 25, and whoever misses eventually, that's it.
Yeah. Maybe they could have a fan from each team come down and start from the 50 and work their way up.
Again, I don't understand what the hate on is for ties. I don't get the hate on. Considering there's been 2 ties in the last 6 years or something, and it's ridiculous. Again, what's the hate on for ties?
Conspiracy. I think it's because they talked about that they're going to start changing the playoff format.
Yeah.
And I think that not having ties is something to do with what they are planning.
Yeah, could be. Because I understand that's for a year ahead. Personally, I'm kind of with GT on this. Why did you even have to talk about this? It only affects 2 teams. It's Calgary and Ottawa.
Well, and like from the 3-yard line.
You don't get ties from anyone else.
Okay, I'm sorry, but if the Riders are playing, Tommy Stevens is going to be just punching stuff in all day. Like, what do we...
Yeah, well, there's that. Although I didn't hear any follow-up on this, but one of their laundry list of stuff was they were going to look at the rules around quarterback sneaks. So what does that mean? I don't know.
I didn't hear anything about that in the availability presser today.
Right. So again, this is what we got was this great big list of stuff, none of which we'll ever know whether they formalized anything about or even discussed in detail. And what was the point then? Like, give us the results of the discussion. If you're going to give us the discussion points, then give us the results. Like, we've decided that we're not going to do that, or we've decided that we're going to table that till next year, whatever the case may be.
Exactly.
So they said that the replay center is going to be a little hands-offy next year because they're like, this is slowing down the game. And I'm like, you think? You think it's slowing down?
But
yes,
again,
of course it is.
I don't disagree with that, but that doesn't sound any more defined to me than before. You should be able to put in a defined set of conditions that work. And just saying, we're going to be a little less involved.
Let the referees decide the game. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, that's going to work until something really awful happens. And then some team's they're going to complain. And then it's going to just go right back to the replay center, replaying everything.
Yeah.
In the sky.
The only thing I would like out of maybe not the only thing, but the main thing I would like out of the replay center is consistency. Because it really does seem like who's in the center, how much they jump into games and whatnot. One week you'll have stuff where they're all over the place, and then the next week they're not touching anything unless it's challenged. So anyway, but you also mentioned the whole thing about the playoff format and the divisions. Should we have divisions for West and East in the playoffs? Should it be?
They didn't say divisions. They just said Something
Playoff ball.
he mentioned something about should one game decide things.
Yeah. So I don't know
And
how
they're
you
talking
get
about how
around that in
other leagues.
We're going back to 2-game total point series. I love it.
I love
well,
it.
either that
Do it.
or only one team misses the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody makes the playoffs. Like, top team has a
no.
bye. Like,
yeah, why not? Sure.
The 3 down guys floated that they might be talking about how the 2 top teams might be, and then everyone slots down from there. So if there's 2 top teams from the West, it's 2 top teams from the West or versus the
But
East.
that still doesn't change the fact you win one game and you're in the Grey Cup.
So he mentioned that NBA has in-season tournaments and other things. So I find in-season tournaments gimmicky.
100%.
And so I don't know why they're even considering that.
How about they just, whatever.
Plus, it's football.
In-game tournament in football, please.
Yeah. Like, we already have the Banjo Bowl and the Stampede Bowl and Labor Day. Those are all in-games.
Guys, maybe it'll be a flag in-season game.
I wouldn't want to rule anything out. But like I said, and you're right. They weren't saying specifically the playoff format here, but tied into that in the scuttlebutt that's out there, there's all these people that are saying, well, we don't want the awards to be divisional anymore. We want, the top
fair.
3 players for MOP for wherever they are to be in the finals. And we don't want the all-stars to be divisional anymore. We want a first and second team. And that ties in with going away from the divisions in the playoffs. And from what I've seen, at least, it looks to me like they're saying we're thinking about all this, but we're punting it down the road for another year at least.
Yeah.
Unless they come out in the middle of August and announce it.
Stuart Johnson said he wants a new team by 2030, so maybe they'll just punt it down to 2030.
Yes. I want a new rule that the Riders aren't allowed to lose, but I think we both have about the same chance of getting our wishes.
Yeah, I don't think that. And what else did they talk about? I mean, it was just kind of nothing. Nobody asked, like the 3 down guys tried to ask, and Stuart kind of gave back at one of the guys, and he was like, I'm not answering. Oh, he was asking about transparency for things, and he was like, I'm not answering this, John. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well then.
Yes. Well, and I didn't see the presser, but I did just before we came on air. I read the 3 down write-up on it. And apparently Stewart is also saying, basically doing almost a Trump, saying, oh, no, there was absolutely no pushback on the rules.
Well,
we didn't get any negative comments.
He said, because they're like, because if you saw, like, Danny Machocha's like, I'm bringing my own research. Dave Dickinson's like, I've done my own research. I hate now. This is such a triggering phrase for me now. But anyway, they're like, we have compiled some evidence and we are going to, but I think that those were still going on. I don't think the meetings were wrapped up at the time of the presser. I think that they were still ongoing.
That may be, no, I personally, I could be wrong, but the way they've handled this right from day one, and I don't want to get into a big rant on the rules, but the secrecy, the fact that some special select committee that nobody gets to know who was on it made all these changes without consulting anybody. And then as soon as anybody started talking about anything negative about it, suddenly it was like there was a hush put on everything and no one was allowed to talk about it. So I think this is just part of the same thing. It's the deny there's any problems, give everything is sunshine and lollipops, and we're great here. Don't pay attention to the guys over there punching each other in the face.
So, and then other things that were quickly mentioned, which I think needed to be fleshed out a little bit. One was the weather delays and weather protocol. I feel like that is extremely important given what happened this year and what's just going to keep happening. And then I think someone asked a very pointed question and they're like, why are player injuries not better? Why are we not allowed to know what injuries there are going on? They're like, in the NFL, they're like, you can know who the like orthopedic surgeon is for a guy. You know exactly what he's done, how long he's out for, what. So they're like, but in the CFL, you can just put like lower body, calf, maybe. Like Chad Kelly's not on the 6 game injured, or is he? We don't. What's going on? So I mean, if you want to build fantasy and betting, that needs to be very clear to people.
Yep.
Very clear.
I agree. And then the other thing, I'm not, whoops, here I go beating up the equipment here. I'm not saying this doesn't happen because it's behind the scenes. So I don't know. But to me, if you're going to allow some of the stuff where we had a couple of marquee players this year look like they got fairly serious concussions and then have it reported the next week as something other than that, as a head injury or a back injury or something.
A neck
I would
injury.
hope that if when those things go on there, that the league is pushing hard on those teams and saying, we want the medical evidence. We want the doctors or the trainers or whatever to sign something saying that you're reporting it right. Because if you can just call it whatever you want, then it doesn't matter that you have to report whether they're practiced or not.
Well, they'll never, as we talked about when that happened, the teams are never going to, no matter what they say, they'll always put themselves above the player's health. They always will.
Oh yeah, they will. But if it's a set rule that, that you have to be able to back it up with a medical documentation, then maybe we start seeing somewhere, at least if it doesn't say concussion, it says head injury at least. That's another one of my pet peeves. Apparently I'm getting grumpy. Maybe we're at the end here. How much more do you have about the meetings?
I was just like, it could have been an email.
Yep.
I'll tell you my funny 3 Down Nation story. So after Stuart Johnson made his opening comments, they're like, we'll open up the press. Like everyone was online. And so they're like, okay, JC Abbott from 3 Down. And it's just silence. For like, about a minute, they let it. Finally, they're like, okay, John Hodge, 3 Down Nation. And it's like 30 seconds later. And he's like, oh, sorry. It wouldn't let me unmute myself. And then he asked his question. And then I can't remember the guy's name. I think he was from the Canadian Presser. And he gets on. He's like, oh, well, my unmute button worked just fine.
We're a high-class league. We are.
I loved it. I don't know if he knew it was going to be like broadcast out, but it was pretty funny.
Hey, that's, again, peak CFL. I like it.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed that a lot. So anyway, but 3 Down guys, thank you for asking all the hard questions. Although they asked for questions to ask the league, and I was like, talk about PitchCom, and nobody asked about PitchCom if it went well, or if they're expanding it to offense and special teams. So I will just for 2026, guys, I'm just going to track the PitchCom.
We're going to have to get
release.
you some press credentials, because I think that's a major thing, and we're the only people I know that's talked about it.
I was
and
like,
if you hadn't told us, I wouldn't know.
This was in Calgary. I should have got my sister. I should have got her a press pass. Like, how do we get press pass? The Student Out guys got them for Grey Cup. How do we get these?
Yeah, may have to do some looking.
We'll be like on it.
Anything else, or do we let the folks get some time to ruminate on all the information we've given them? Any more before we close?
This is not so. We've bashed a lot in the CFL, but I just want to quickly say how much I do appreciate how much serious the CFL takes player safety. I was watching the Pittsburgh Steelers game, and Aaron Rodgers literally got his helmet knocked off, and I was laughing because there was a couple instances where we complained about this during the season, and it was not called, and he was getting like murdered out there, and they were just like letting it fly, no roughing the passer. So I will say, CFL, thank you for taking player safety serious.
All right.
Yeah, we complain a lot about stuff in the CFL because we're close to it and we love it. But in a lot of ways, I think that the policies are better than what the NFL has. And I think, frankly, the game's a lot more fun. It's a lot more exciting. The officiating is better here. Yeah.
So there's lots of people doing a lot of hard work, and it does not go unnoticed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay,
then. So let's tell you what, that was your closing comment. Give us your social media, and then we'll turn it over to GT.
Yeah. So I just want to say also quickly, things are really awful and scary a lot of the time. And I hope that in 2026, you find something that brings you some joy and happiness as much as like podcasting with you guys about this brings for me. And I really appreciate it. So thank you. You can find me at Blue Sky and Sports and Plants, and also today, as of today, CFL Outsiders is on Threads because I figured out that's where all the teams are also posting. So we are there as well.
Good stuff.
On Threads. Interesting.
Yes.
The teams are all on Threads. None of them are on Blue
Threads. They're not on
None
Blue
of them
Sky.
are
They're
on Blue
on
Sky,
Threads.
but Threads. All 6 people on Threads are getting all the information they need.
Yes.
Anyway, we're there. Yay. And
but we're there too. So there we are.
Is it at the CFL Outsiders for Threads?
Yeah, it's CFL Outsiders.
Okay.
There's a link on our Instagram. They'll take you right there.
So one more I'll have to put in the show notes.
One more thing.
How about you, GT?
No, I'm good. The only thing I can say is thank you for the long list of stuff to talk about, if nothing else, in the middle of January at the winter meetings, because as I said, I think when I sent out you guys to the email is, who said there's nothing to talk about in January? There's lots to talk about in January. And now we've got only 3 weeks to the negotiation window, whom, by the way, I do want to go back and just point out that I've seen multiple people now referring it to as the negotiation window. So thank you for everybody that is doing that. And I think that, we're not that far away from the next big round of stuff that talk about. So I'm sure we'll be here.
We're getting there. Yeah, another month we'll definitely have stuff to talk about. And I'm actually not sure what the official name is. And this isn't me joking. I've always thought it was the negotiations window. I've seen now the last little while people calling it the communications window.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. Anyway,
you
going to give out your social media or just keep people away from you, GT?
And I'm sorry, yes, if and when I do put anything out there, you'll find it at GT Barnum on Blue Sky.
Good stuff. And for me, well, I'm on the Blue Sky. There I go, old man again. I'm on Blue Sky as Old Man SAC, yada yada, Blue Sky Social, like that. And the show is now on Threads and Instagram and Blue Sky and X, all as at the CFL Outsiders. And I'm on Reddit as /Old Man Shouting Clouds. So you want to check us out at any of those places. My postings, sort of like GT's, have gotten a little bit sparser in the CFL or in the football themes these days, but we'll be there. Follow us so that at least you get us when things start heating up again. And same thing here. If you've stumbled across this and you're not one of the people that's already subscribed to us, hit the subscribe button so that when we get into the full season, we'll be out every week with it. Until then, it's probably once a month like this. But we appreciate the support with it. Drop us a like if you can. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. So until next month, for GT and MJ, this is Old Man saying, get the hell off my lawn.